Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Global Gaming Podcast, where we have a very special episode for you all today. We have the YouTuber Sharky, who is the creator or the main lead developer on the little video game known as Chromasia, which you can buy on Steam right now. and we're here to talk to him about Chromasia and potential future projects he has. So, hi, Sharky.
Hello.
So, I guess first off, I have to ask is what was first I'll start with Chromasia. What was one of your main inspirations for making? Was there any particular games that influenced you or whatnot, or did it start at a certain place?
Well, myself, I was very heavily inspired by the Skya series, where my teammate Monkey, he was very much inspired by the Fire Emblem series. So he had his little input from Fire Emblem, and I had my input from kind of the Skya, and we kind of meshed it together, kind of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
was this guy where the humor in Chromasia kind of came from?
Yeah, that and the New Game Plus and the levels that are higher than 100 and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds interesting, and what was out of curiosity though, what was the who was the one who thought of the whole idea of rock paper scissors in Chromasia? Was that you? Was that someone else? Did the whole team sort of think of that collectively, or how'd that sort of go? And
Okay, this is a rather funny story. It's a little bit long story, so let me try to get through it quickly.
It's all right.
Yeah, we have time.
Okay, so it starts back to the beginning before we made Chromasia. We were, a long time ago, there was this meme going on in my Twitch stream about toaster porn. Because somebody was looking at toasters, and at some point, it devolved into somebody being like, "That's a sexy toaster." No, that's a sexy toaster. And they were going back and forth until it just became a whole little meme in my channel that it was all about toaster porn. Because have you ever seen a toaster wearing clothes?
I have to admit, I've heard of a lot of fetishes, but toaster porn is the new for me. And I've seen quite a few fetishes, so that's impressive.
So after that, I was like, I want to make a little game for my fans and everything, and so I was like, everybody loves toaster porn, so let's make something around toaster porn. So that's when Project Toaster was born, and it's a tactical RPG and everything, and we were working on it, and it was a tactical RPG cooking game, and I was working on it, and then something happened, and we had to delay it, because we went to work on something else, kind of thing. So that got back burnered. Eventually, one day it came back, and it's let's go back and make it. So we started working on it, decided to start working on it. And it was to start off, we'll make a little game jam game. And there's a game jam coming up. So we entered that game jam, and we were about to start on it. And it's well, what kind of characters are we going to do for the game jam? And I don't know what point I think Monkey suggested, why don't we just do rock, paper, scissors characters? And I was like, why the hell not? It's just a game jam. We've never put rock, paper, scissors in a full game. Let's go for it. So we did rock, paper, scissors in that little game, and called it rock, paper, tactics. Rock, paper, scissors, it was, I forget the name of it, but it was something like rock, paper, scissors, tactics or something.
Okay.
And no, it's RPS tactics. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And we made that, and then we took off of that, and we built it to go for Project Toaster. So we started building Project Toaster, started building the map assets and all this, started building little toasters and refrigerators and all this other stuff for it. and we were like 6 months into it, and it was like, this is too big of a game for us to complete, within a reasonable time frame. And like, I was like, I don't want to quit this game because, it will just lead to us not finishing it and not finishing the next, and never finishing the game, because that's the eternal problem of a game developer.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I came up with an idea. Well, what if we didn't stop working on Project Toaster? What if we just worked on 2 games at the same time, which is generally a freaking horrible idea, because, that's the number way to quit.
Yeah.
But the way we were going to work on both of them at the same time is basically we were going to do Project Toaster at the same time as we were working on RPS Tactics. And basically we were going to solely work on Project RPS Tactics while that got us assets and stuff to use, and engines and all this other stuff to use for Project Toaster.
All right.
So we kept on going, and eventually, Rock Paper Tactics turned into Chromasia, and by that point, we got to a point, and it was like, this engine, basically none of this is going to be usable for Project Toaster. But at least we finished Chromasia.
Okay, I was about to ask, did you merge the 2 projects together, but your one project died and the other became Chromasia, is what you're saying, right?
Well, Project Toaster didn't die. It just, it's backburned.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's stuck in development hell, basically.
Like most of our games.
Yeah.
We got a ton of them.
Oh, it's okay. I'm sure your game has a much higher chance of coming out than Half-Life 3, so you have that. Out of curiosity, what engine does Chromasia run on?
It runs on the Chromasia engine.
Oh, so it's a unique engine. It isn't like Unity or
Yeah.
anything?
It's a custom engine. It runs. We didn't build the engine from scratch, so we built it off of the libgdx framework, which is a Java-based framework.
That makes sense.
Which has libraries and all this other stuff. I don't know all the details on that because Monkey's our programmer.
Fair enough. Maybe
But-
we'll get some time to interview him.
Yeah, but the framework is a very big part of the engine, so it's not like a super big accomplishment to write our own engine, because I think the initial part of the engine took about 2 weeks to write. And then Monkey added to it bit by bit over the time, and I don't know how much of the actual development time went into that.
You
But-
weren't involved in that part of the development?
Do I now?
What?
What did you say?
I said as you weren't involved with that part. You weren't really involved with the engine making part. You were more involved with level design and whatnot. Is that correct?
Well, I was involved with mostly everything that was not programming.
Fair enough. So, just one more question related to engine, and then I'll move on. From what you understand, was it it's sort of, so from what I understand, you pretty much took a base of an engine and sort of modified it a bit? Is that sort of the basics of what happened?
Kind of. It's not really a base of an engine, though. It's to put, I guess the analogy, about analogy I could say is the framework is like a library. The engine is like the books in the library, and the game is the person reading the books.
Okay, that makes sense. So,
So we didn't have to build a library. We just had to build a bunch of books to stock the library shelf with.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, to ask a more personal question before we move on to the other game stuff, I'm curious, why do you call yourself Sharky? Is there any particular reason, or you just thought, I like sharks, so I'll call myself Sharky?
That's also kind of a long story. the origin is that many years ago when I was quite young and I got one of my first cars. It was a Camaro, 82 Camaro, and I built that car into a race car. And, you know, at that point, basically at my mom's encouragement, I was basically required to name the car. And I was trying to think of a name, and I was looking at the way the car looked, and it's like, it kind of looks like a shark. So I ended up calling it Shark. And then later on, it ended up getting nicknamed Sharky. And then, later on through like my game making and like, role playing games and stuff like this, I ended up using that name over and over. And eventually it became my my Twitch name. And then like people just kept on calling me that, and, I just kept it.
So that's pretty interesting. So you were once into like go-kart racing or?
No, race car racing.
Race car racing.
Yeah.
Like 600 horsepower, pop the wheels, 2 inches off the ground. Street car racing.
I had a cousin once who was really into more go-kart racing, so that's why I was so interested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back a bit to Chromasia. What is its current state at the moment?
It's in the current progress of shutting down, because our sales have been really, really low. And by really, really low, I mean 27.
I'm really
Ouch.
sorry.
27 copies. Which, to give you kind of a context of how low 27 is, 27 after you take off the taxes and the Steam fees and stuff, it's about enough money to pay the $100 submission fee that we had to submit the game to Steam, and the $30 I paid to the voice actor to do the new trailer, and that's about it. Nothing to cover the musician I hired, nothing to cover the 2.5 years we made the game, nothing to cover anything.
I'm really sorry. I'll try to get the word out. I've already tried already, but I'll try harder to get the word out about the games as I can go forward.
Well, it's not technically past the point of no return, but it's basically past the point of no return. And like around January, February, somewhere in there, around the beginning of next year, we're going to have to remove it from the Steam store. Because
people who have still downloaded it will still be able to have it in their library, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So, like, everybody who owns it will still have access to it, just nobody will be able to buy it after that point. And there won't be a Steam page after that point.
I'm really sorry. I don't know what else to say. God.
And basically that boils down into, around February, I don't remember the exact date, but around February, we're going to have to pay some state fees for our LLC. And, it would take roughly 300 sales before then to be able to just pay that. And seeing how we only sold, 27 up to this point, not likely, not even feasible at this point. It would just have to, like, PewDiePie or somebody would have to pick it up and just, go viral kind of thing. That's about the only way that, we won't be shutting down at that point. And we won't be able to pay our LLC fee, so our LLC will be taken away. We could still technically have the game on the storefront, but the thing is due to my situation, my specialist situation, which is not what most developers have, I cannot have that because that would jeopardize my income that I live on. And I could, end up homeless because somebody bought one copy of Chromasia.
Oh.
So it's not worth the risk to keep it in the store after that point. So we have to remove it and let nobody buy it after that point.
Is there any chance, like, going forward when you're more financially stable, you'll be able to bring it back? Or, like, do you think you're going to take it off indefinitely?
This is a tough question because
You don't have to answer.
there's I'm trying to see if there's any way I can answer it.
You don't have to, like, you don't feel comfortable or whatever it is.
Well, there's some stuff that I know Dolphin knows about that we're working on. I think the best way to say it would be if Chrome Asia comes back. If it does come back, we don't know if it will, but we don't know if we'll actually come back with the next game with Project Triad. We don't know if that's even going to work. But if Chrome Asia does come back, it's not going to come back as it is now. It's going to be basically an entirely different game.
I see, so...
And it won't be under the name Chrome Asia. It may be under Chrome Asia something else, but like it won't it will never come back in the iteration that it is now. So even if it does come back in some fashion, right? It won't nullify the version that people have already bought of the current one, because the current version will never come back.
Okay.
Got it.
And another version may or may not ever come.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as Rocky still makes puns, that's fine.
Okay, moving on though. Project Triad. If I understand correctly, that's a new game you guys are developing, or not?
Yeah, that is what we are working on.
Do you want to make any comments on that, or do you want to like just remain silent about that?
It's a kind of unique card game. It's not 100% unique, because the fact is there is a card game that did similar to it, but it was a mini game, not a full card game kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was Final Fantasy VIII, and I think Final Fantasy XIV had a mini game in it that was called Triple Triad, and it's that plays in a lot of ways similar to what Project Triad does.
Okay, so it's sort of similar-ish to that, but like different enough to make it unique.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And it's a full card game. It's going to be a full card game rather than a little mini game like that, because in that you only got 5 cards, and then 5-card deck or something, and then you played out your cards on a 3x3 grid kind of thing. And ours is you're going to have probably like a 60 card deck, and I think the grid is something like 8x8, and then there's all these different effects in there, and the actual gameplay. You know how Project Triad does Triple Triad does the 4 different directions, but it's just whoever's got the highest, right?
I wouldn't know. I haven't actually ever played it.
Well, Triple Triad basically has it's got 4 different attacks. It's got left, right, up, and down kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll have a number in each one of those things. And if you put your card down, and if your number is higher than the number above you, you flip that card above you. If it's higher than the one to the side, it'll flip that one. It'll flip every one that's higher in those 4 different directions. And, your goal is to have the most cards in your possession.
Okay. Well, I really do hope that it does much better than your last game. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for it.
Yeah. The main difference between gameplay wise at the moment, keep in mind this is very early in development. The main difference right now, though, is where Triple Triad is just the highest wins kind of thing. Ours is color coded. We have 3 different colors: red, green, and yellow. And green would act just like Triple Triad does, where the highest one wins, kind of thing. But if it's red, then the lowest one wins. And if it's yellow, then it has to be equal to win.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So this is probably asking too much, but like, do you have any idea of like, at least a vague idea of when it might like be out, or at least like how much progress you've made on it so far?
We are super early in development, so
It'll be ready.
no idea really, honestly. But I know, like, on the side of like LLC stuff, because we'll have to file a new LLC before that can happen. I figure that's going to be at least 2 years from now.
Okay. Well,
probably longer.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope it goes really well.
Thank you.
Yeah. And okay, just to ask this, because some people are going to ask it anyway, when around the time the game comes out, how is it going to be funded?
How is the game going to be funded? Well, it's going to be a free-to-play game, and we're going to sell card packs that will have a set card setup to where, like, I think we're going to go more traditional, like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all those other card games, where you get maybe 10, 11 cards in a pack, where like Hearthstone offers like 5, and we're going to have like maybe something like 7 commons, 3 uncommons, and like 1 rare, maybe 1 foil kind of card that can be any rarity. And besides the foil card, your rarities are set, and the foil card can be any rarity. And we're going to be balancing the thing to where common cards will be needed in your deck. Even if you buy and buy a complete set and have like all the cards, right? And like all the copies of the cards. Like you have like max number of copies, you can build any deck you want. The best deck will have commons and uncommons in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like that makes sense. They're trying to keep it fair, but like not like something where it's like predatory or anything.
Yeah. Not to the point that some guy can spend like $50, have all the best rare cards in the game, and completely destroy everybody.
Yeah, like if you had all the rare cards, if you built a deck solely of rare cards, you're probably going to lose.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
I mean, that already differentiates it from Yu-Gi-Oh, so that's good.
Yeah, that's like the opposite of Yu-Gi-Oh. If you buy all the rare cards in Yu-Gi-Oh, you automatically win, pretty much.
That's not entirely true. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh as much as I used to, but I have a gamers club at my college that I go to once a week, and like my cards are like outdated as heck, like compared to like the brand new cards they have, and I've actually been able to beat them a couple times. So, well, then again, I don't know how much of that is luck versus strategy, but I don't know. Just wanted to throw it out there. Sorry, I have an ego problem.
That's one of the reasons we keep you on.
But thank you so much for letting us interview you a bit. Do you think there's any other questions you have to ask Self-MD, or should we go on to more casual stuff?
Actually, there was another project called Project Golem. I believe you put that on the back burner for a while.
Yeah. Originally, Project Golem was going to be our next game after Chromasia, but what's caused it to be backburnered is not because we don't want to do it, because, that is, I talked to Monkey, and that is definitely what we both want to do right now instead of Project Triad. But the reason why we're doing Project Triad instead of Project Golem is Project Golem is going to be a large undertaking in every way. It's going to be large in art. It's going to be large in programming. It's going to be large in all the areas. It's just going to be an all-around large game, much like Chromasia, but to a much higher degree than Chromasia was.
And
the issue is, do I know?
I was asking, give us some vague idea like what it's about or whatnot, or do you want to remain quiet on that?
Yeah, it's to basically sum it up in a few words. It's like you combine Final Fantasy with Pokemon.
Yeah.
So like
Interesting.
you play as a summoner, and as a summoner, you get materials, magic materials. You go through the crafting system, and you craft out golems, magical entities that are sentient, and you use them in battle. But they also like form naturally out in the world, and you are basically a summoner that controls Pokemon essentially.
Sounds interesting.
And there's a very extreme story behind that. Unlike Pokemon, the story is going to be more like a Final Fantasy type story.
So you're saying Pokemon doesn't have the deepest of stories?
Well, with Pokemon, it's kind of like, hey, I leave my town for no reason, and I kind of find some story out there. That's like, okay, there's this evil organization, I just happened to run into them, and oh yeah, I'm fighting them now, because I have nothing to do with my weekends.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Whereas with Final Fantasy, it's like, I'm hanging around in this village all cool, then the story comes to me, and I have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And then the story just keeps on evolving from there.
Yeah, like more and more, like, I don't want to say crazy stuff, but more and more, like, what's the word? I guess, like, on paper.
It grows in scope. Like, it goes from, oh, I've got to save my town, and then, oh, I've got to save my city. Oh, I've got to save my country. Oh, I've got to save my continent. Oh, I've got to save my world. Oh, my God, I got to save our universe.
Yeah, and it's like, there's a lot of things in Final Fantasy where if I were to just tell you point blank, or if I were to just tell my mom or my friends who don't know anything about Final Fantasy point blank, they'd be like, what the heck? And stuff, but like when you play the games, they sort of ease you into it, and by the time when you get to that, you're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say a shitty joke saying about like how Pokemon Snap has the greatest story ever, but it was a really bad joke, so like never mind.
Yeah. Don't quit your day job to become a comedian anytime soon. Just don't.
I can occasionally tell good jokes. Just on this podcast, I for some reason always tell the worst jokes.
Yeah, because when you try to be funny, you're not funny.
That's alright. I'm only funny when I don't try to be funny, and I actually try to be respectable. That's when I'm the most funny. Because I fail at life.
Although they call that trying too hard.
I wish I could just play music on Q whenever I want to, because I would play Hello Darkness, my old friend.
You need your sound effects board.
Yeah, I'll have to get that at one point. Anyway,
is there anything else that we could know about Project Golem at this point?
Well, the reason why we're not making it right now, the reason why I got backburnered is because it's such a big task, and Monkey, the programmer, he's just started college, and originally he thought that was going to free up more time for him to program, but he was mistaken, and it's really got him, hitting the books hard. So, he wants to do he's like, we need to do a game that is light on programming.
That makes sense. Well, either way, I wish you luck in all your upcoming games going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was like Project Heroes. Is that one you're going to do eventually?
Yeah, that's what, at the moment, we're planning to do after Project Triad. And it's also a card game, but it's a very different kind of card game. It's a hero-based card game, and very much on that is going to be like kind of like an RPG, basically, where you have, like, you get your party of companions out there, and those basically act as your defenders. And you have a deck, and you draw monsters and you attack with the monsters and try to kill their PCs kind of thing, and they attack with their monsters trying to kill your PC. And there's luck mechanics that are controllable luck mechanics, mind you, in there and stuff like that. And I mean, it's not, when I say controllable luck, I mean it's like whatever you draw from your card from the top of your deck. There's a card. Every card will have a value on the top corner, and that will add to whatever attack or defense you're doing. And you have control over that based off of the way you build the deck. You can build a deck with all high values and probably have a pretty crappy performing deck, but hey, you draw good every time. Or you could, and there's also like card manipulation, like potentially like you can stack a card on top of your deck or whatever, through an ability or card power or something like that. And there's also like cards that would be able to just add like maybe 1 or 2 to the value, whatever it is, kind of thing, or all kinds of different other tactics. There's going to be decks where, you can draw a whole lot, and, there's going to be decks where you could, heal a lot. There's going to be all kinds of different decks kind of thing. But
all right,
it'll be, more like an RPG kind of thing as a card game.
That makes sense. That
different decks for different kinds of battles.
Well, I wouldn't say different decks for different kinds of battles. It's just whatever you want to build kind of thing. You build, and then, based on what you build, to how it works kind of thing, to where, let's say you have X element deck, and that element is based around, X ability. Say, let's just say fire is built around drawing cards. So you build a fire deck, and then you build your fire deck around drawing cards to a point, kind of thing.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. So thank you for letting us talk about your games. It's really great having you here. So I think now we're gonna take a little bit of a break from talking about your, maybe we'll talk about something a little more casual. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm happy to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
I just imagine you're probably getting a little tired of talking about this sort of stuff. So.
No, I love talking about it. I love sharing it.
Maybe we'll come back around to it later. For now, though, should we move on to another topic, or do you have any other last-minute questions?
One thing I was wondering is how are the games going to be marketed going forward?
That's a good question.
It's especially going forward now with E3 slowly dying. Not even Sony wants to support it anymore. I mean,
we don't have that
market
kind of money.
So it's just the way you market upcoming games is really changing. So I'm thinking, how would these new games be marketed going forward?
That's something I don't know, and I'm going to have to figure out. I really botched the marketing for Chrome Asia, so hopefully it won't be marketed like Chrome Asia was.
Okay. That's good, because I do think Chrome Asia is a good game, but I feel like, I don't know. I don't even know how I would suggest to make it better, but I feel like definitely the marketing could have been, was definitely the thing that was dragging it down, I think.
I think the main cause of our death of Chrome Asia and everything was our release date. Because we had set our release date 5 weeks before we released. And we had promised everybody on Steam that we were not going to delay again. And Steam, up to this point had been, telling us when Steam sales were going to be 3-6 months in advance, kind of thing. Yeah. And this, we got 2 weeks past, and then all of a sudden we got an email from Steam saying that the Steam Summer Sale is going to be in 2 days. And then I looked at when the date from the start to the end, and it ended 1 week before our release date. So coming off the Steam sale, nobody had any money left, and then we released with everybody being broke. And if you don't get that week 1 sales, the sales of video game is like a hockey stick. It's really high at first, and then it just drops almost straight down, and then it just kind of levels out, across, to nothingness kind of thing.
Yeah.
So basically, it said that whatever you do on your launch week, let's say hypothetically you sell 1,000 copies on your first week. Well, then that means that the next 3 weeks, you're only going to sell another 1,000 copies, making 2,000 at the end of the month. And then from the next month to the rest of the year, see here, the year total is going to be roughly 5 times what you got on the first month. So you would have 10,000 at the end of the first year, rather. And then at the end of 3 years, you would have twice that, so you would have 20,000. So you'd have 20,000 in 3 years, but 1,000 of that is going to be in the first year. So it just drops off drastically right after the first week, basically.
So if you don't come out swinging, it's hard to recover.
Yep, and our first week had 9 sales. So, we had 1,100 people wish list the game, and as a general calculation, basically you can take your wish list and multiply it by 2, and that's what you're supposed to sell, stereotypically on the first week. So we were supposed to sell 2,200 copies in the first week, but we sold 9.
Oh God, I feel so awful. I'm sorry.
And then it went just downhill from there.
Yeah. Even with the Halloween sale, it wasn't that good.
Yeah, we did a deep sale for the Halloween sale. We put out a new trailer. We did a game update to get some, media coverage. We did. We had, finally gotten a review score, which was 100% positive, might I add. The one bragging right we really have. Gotta get them where you can.
Yeah.
You're right.
But that was all that stuff combined. The new trailer, the review score, the update, all that stuff combined resulted the deep sale resulted in 7 copies being sold during the Steam sale. It's like, ouch. Yeah, that covered for the voice actor in the trailer, and that's it.
Well, again, I'm really sorry that it didn't do so well, but I have to say the fact that you're not giving up is really inspiring to me. Really great.
Well, this is not the first time we've done that, because I've had failures for the last probably 10 years I've been making games. Chrome Asia was our first game that was able to make it to release, because we've had so many games that failed that they didn't fail because they weren't good. They didn't fail, because they didn't sell. They failed because we had team problems, and key people would quit, and we couldn't make the game anymore. For example, one game we had, we had an artist that was working on it, and the artist quit, and we had nobody that could copy their style, and we didn't have anybody that could do their job either, and we couldn't continue making the game.
Well, you finally did release the game, so that's, before you know it, I'm sure you'll be selling in the millions.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I think even in Chrome Asia, wasn't there a problem with the musician you hired originally?
Well, originally we had a teammate that was not a hire, but he was working with us and everything. And turns out a lot of the songs he gave us, if not all the songs, I don't know, but a lot of the songs we found out that they were actually not his, and somebody else owned them. They were copyright-free songs, but copyright-free does not mean it's free to use in a game. It means it's they were copyright-free to the point where you could use them in a YouTube video perfectly fine, and that would be all legal and everything. But to use them in a game where you're strictly making money straight off of it, it wasn't legal. You would have to buy the song off of them, and a lot of them were like $50 a song, which isn't the most horrible price in the world, but they weren't the best songs in the world either. So, ended up this was, mind you, right before we released. This was like, I don't know, 4 months before we released, and it's like, oh crap. And I scrambled very quickly and hired a musician, and then we had all new songs made and put in there, and the songs were way, way better. And I love the song.
Yeah. At least be thankful it didn't take as long as Final Fantasy 15 to make.
That you mean 13 too?
Well, I think I was talking about 15, but 13 came out.
No, not 13 too. 13 verses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically, 13 Verses was a completely different game that was burned at the stake, and from its ashes arose Final Fantasy 15, technically.
Yeah, that was then never able to be finished.
Is that what happened? Because I heard that Final Fantasy 15 was 13 verses.
Sort of. This is what I've unread from interviews and from a lot of places. Apparently, 13 Verses came right off the heels of Kingdom Hearts, and Nomura was thinking, okay, I have complete creative control, I'm gonna do something really big. And he did do something really big. And, he had a lot of ambitious ideas, a bunch of really cool ideas, but according to a lot of people, they never really melded into something that was actually presentable or anything real and stuff. There's even some rumors, I don't know if this is true, but there's even some rumors that, every 6 or 7 months or so, Nomura would just completely and utterly change the story of the game, would completely overhaul the script and everything every 6 or 7 months, and it got to the point where the execs are like, you're wasting too much money, you're out, you're no longer working on this project. Then Hajime Tabata took over, and he pretty much completely reworked staff positions and whatnot and what it was about. And so there are definitely bits and pieces from what was Versus 13 and whatnot, but overall, from what I understand, it's very different from what it was originally supposed to be, whatever originally supposed to be it was.
Yeah, there are entire characters that were cut out of the original project.
Yeah, there was one character named, never mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was one character that was only in 1 or 2 trailers ever, named
Stella,
and that people are still worrying about, saying they think this character is a better character than Luna or whatnot. And I'm like, she's only in 1 or 2 freaking trailers. How do you know this character so well?
Maybe because the one they're talking about wasn't very good at all.
And according to rumors, one of the main reasons that Nomura was fired was because he wanted to make the game a musical.
Oh, jeez.
Well,
a Final Fantasy musical game? Seriously?
Well, it's been done because they just did a game like that, what was that, last year?
They did? Really? What was it?
Yeah, they did. I think it was on the DS.
I haven't heard of it.
I'll have to look into that one.
But
I'll see if I can find it real quick.
It was during an era where Versus 13 were, as a concept, they didn't know what they were going to do with it, and just seen Les Miserables had just come out in Japan, and he really loved it, and he thought, you know what, this would be a great, let's turn Versus 13 to a musical or what.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's called Threat Rhythm Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay.
Look into it.
Okay, imagine that. Nomura coming into the boardroom and saying he wants to make a Final Fantasy game into a musical.
Here, I'll send you guys though.
Yeah, so I'm trying to imagine all the suits at Square Enix looking at each other and thinking, we've given this guy way too much freedom.
Well, to be fair, they wouldn't be the weirdest thing Square Enix has ever done. I remember wasn't there an era where back when Spirits of Sin came out, they were originally planning on doing something like a CG actress or something that they would sell to other studios to use or something. And it was very weird.
Not sure. I mean, Final Fantasy went down a bit when Squaresoft became Square Enix.
Yeah, that's around the time I quit caring anything about Square Enix.
Yeah, Square is
Yeah.
Which the original developers of Square Enix are still around though. Because you know what happened, right?
Well, I think you've told me this story before, but you haven't really told Papa G, so you tell it again.
I think from what I understand, like, just Squaresoft merged with Enix, and they became Square Enix, right?
That's the last part of the story. The first part is that basically Squaresoft had entrenched management that were really, mistreating their employees. And basically everybody mass walked out at the same time, right after Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
And right after they mass walked out, Squaresoft with its few employees ended up saying, "Hey, we're about to die here, and but we have tons of money." So they took that tons of money, bought Enix with that money, and then after they bought Enix, they merged Enix and Squaresoft together to make Square Enix. And then they hired a bunch of newbies to work on Squaresoft games, and they had a few of the Enix guys move over and supervise the newbies on the Final Fantasy games, on the Squaresoft games, where the original Squaresoft employees and Squaresoft developers ended up in several different places, but the main place that is still alive, as far as I know, the only place that is still alive and well today, is a bunch of them formed a new company called Monolith Soft, which is now making Xenoblade series and 99% owned by Nintendo.
Cool. So,
Yeah. So that's why they made Final Fantasy X too, why it was so different.
Yeah, why it was such a train wreck.
Yes, I finally have justification to hate it.
I find it interesting that you said they left after 10, because my research could be wrong, but I remember reading up at some point that they actually developed Final Fantasy 9, 10, and 11 simultaneously. Because
I think they did, but
what I read was that, like, around 9 and 10, there was a bit of a divide in the company of where they wanted to go forward with the series. So a part of the team divided up to make Final Fantasy 9, another team divided up to make 10, another smaller team divided up to make 11 because they wanted to make an MMO, which was what 11 was, and that's how they're made back to back. At least that's what I was aware of. So, like,
that is probably true, but I don't know.
fair enough. Yeah. So at least it's good to know those people who walked out on Squaresoft. So you're saying, just make sure I understand, Squaresoft is being a dick to a bunch of these employees, and these employees left, and eventually became the company that makes Xenoblade, and then Squaresoft merged with Square Enix, right?
Yeah. There was another company that, another portion of the employees formed. I forget the name of that company, but they're no longer open, sadly.
They're still getting work.
So, I mean, I don't know where they are now, but, like, as a team, they are no longer together. But the Xenoblade team are very much together. But they had financial issues, because they were trying to make such a big game and everything. So they ended up striking a deal with Nintendo. Nintendo said, we'll buy 99% of the company. We'll leave you do your job. You do what you do. We won't mess with what you do. We'll give you basically all the funding you need, and just make us a lot of money. and Nintendo just sit back and collect and let them do their thing.
That sounds like a pretty fair deal for the most part.
Yeah.
Sort of reminds me of what Nintendo did with Bayonetta 2. Do you know that story?
I know a little bit of it, but I don't know fully. You want to share?
Yeah, sure. Pretty much here's the story. So Bayonetta 1 came out. It was a big success. A lot of people loved it. Did really well financially. And so Bayonetta 2 was greenlit for a sequel. Well, Bayonetta 2 was greenlit, and they actually started making the game under Sega, the first game. However, I think it was midway through development or somewhat through development. At some point during development, Sega was facing some really bad financial problems. So they had no choice but to cut pretty much almost everything that wasn't Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff due to financial reasons. So Bayonetta 2 was left a partially finished game, but had no funding to continue. So they're in a situation where if we don't get more money, we're gonna have to cancel this game. So Nintendo came in and pretty much said, "We'll agree to fund your game, but from this point forward, we own Bayonetta, and officially, you're allowed to make the games and whatnot, but them at this point, we own it. You're only allowed to release it on our console." So they ultimately agreed to it because they figured if they didn't, then they wouldn't be able to make the game and stuff. So after that, that's how Bayonetta, and that's why Bayonetta 2 and probably 3 won't be probably showing up on Steam because they're technically owned by Nintendo now.
Yeah,
But
it's
really
why they got away with putting a kind of Legend of Zelda inspired outfit in there.
Yeah, a couple other outfits and whatnot.
Yeah. And surprisingly, Nintendo's been quite open with letting those slide.
Yeah, and in fact, even one thing that's even crazier is that I think for Bayonetta 2, they did some sort of Playboy tie-in, which is very unheard of, especially for Nintendo.
Well, Nintendo with the Wii U was trying to get more back towards the real gamers and less towards the casual.
Yeah. So yeah, one hand, it's kind of a mixed bag with what happened in Bayonetta 2. On one hand, it's a good thing it was funded and was released, but now it's sort of a Nintendo exclusive and less people can play it now.
Yeah,
but,
it'll just have to be emulated instead.
Yeah. That is true. Emulation is always a great equalizer.
Yeah, even if no matter how many people Nintendo sue, they'll never get rid of that.
Yeah.
Well, they'll get rid of a lot of it. They just won't get rid of all of it.
Yeah,
because there ain't no deleting stuff off the internet.
No.
And even if they do delete all of it, it'll only last for 2 minutes. That's why I'm not too concerned when emulator sites are taken down, because I figured, you know what, they'll be probably back next month even stronger, because it happens all the time, because people are stubborn on the internet. They don't like getting taken down. You say they take them down, they'll be like, well, come back stronger on a different site, or with certain things slightly tweaked or what.
The issue is that it becomes harder to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, for games that Nintendo doesn't care about, that's the part that really gets it. Because, those games are harder to even know about because, they're not big name games.
Yeah.
But they could be great games. And Nintendo doesn't care if ROMs get out for those. But Nintendo's going to shoot down everything.
Yeah. And, that's why I'm, that's why I don't understand why, Nintendo seems to be the last, most gaming companies seem to have, really accepted, emulation and, Tube and whatnot fully, and Nintendo seems to be the last company or at least the last big company that's really, no, we're double, tripling, quadrupling down.
Nintendo honestly really kind of stuck in the past. They
are.
I really, out of the consoles, I will not own a Sony or an Xbox console because, I wouldn't ever own an Xbox console because they just have too many bad business practices.
Fair enough.
I liked the PlayStation 1 and 2, but when they went on to 3, they started getting really bad. And now with 4, they're really bad. And I won't touch them now. And Nintendo has been really good, but they're starting to get bad themselves. So, that's got me worried there.
Yeah. What specific ways would you say they're getting bad?
Well, not on their console, but they're doing like the the loot box stuff and stuff like that in like Fire Emblem mobile game.
Oh yeah.
They're doing all the exclusive stuff, which is normal bullcrap for console, but that doesn't make it better. They're doing what else are they doing? They're charging for a really crappy online service.
Mm-hmm.
They're killing all emulators, or at least trying to. They're see here.
Yeah,
what else?
Still have that stupid phone app.
Yeah. The thing with Nintendo is like I think they've always had at least a part of them has always been a little bit bad. But it's always showed up in different ways in different eras. Like
I know. That's a problem with Nintendo. They're a really good game developer. They're just a bad business.
Yeah, like for instance, in the Wii U days, they had a bunch of other bullshit region locking, a bunch of stupid like commercials, and a whole lot of other stupid bullshit. And now they've shredded. Like they got rid of the no region locking problem, and they got rid of stupid commercials, but now they have new problems. So I really do think it's maybe I'm wrong, but I really do think it's some of the bigwigs that are like stuck in the past and are just like refusing to adapt to like the new internet age.
All of Nintendo seems like it's stuck in the past.
Absolutely. I mean, they don't allow you to stream their games without their permission. Or if they changed that recently, I don't know. That might be outdated.
No, they still copyright strike the heck out of YouTube videos or anything on there, but
Yeah, because I remember they copyright struck that video where I was playing Legend of Zelda. That one.
Yeah, the only thing I haven't seen them copyright strike is games that are made by other people for their consoles. Like I see like Bayonetta getting on there, without copyright strikes. Bayonetta 2.
Mm-hmm.
I see like Xenoblade getting on there without no issues. Stuff like that, but like Nintendo property games, like I see them getting struck down like instantly, pretty much.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I think, like, this is my always attitude is, and so I do have some respect for Nintendo, but at the same time, I've said before in a podcast, I'll say like fuck Nintendo, and some of that's a joke, but some of that's me serious because I think some of the shit they do is really retarded. And I'm constantly like, if anyone ever comes up to me and says, like, I don't want to support Nintendo because this or that, I'm always like, no, I don't blame you whatsoever in the slightest, and I kind of agree with you. I'm just too nice and whatnot.
I don't hate Nintendo, but like I do hate some of the stuff they do, and I'm getting to the point, if they keep on going this way, is going to get to a point where I'll eventually hate them, and I hope that doesn't happen. But
for me, it's at least from my point of view, it's always been a thing where Nintendo's always been like somewhat good, but also somewhat shitty, and they always just shortly stop themselves from being completely shitty or whatnot, like because they either wisen up or something happens or whatnot. And stuff, and like I don't know, like there's probably gonna be a point at one point where they're gonna go too far and they're gonna pay for it dearly and whatnot, and
I doubt it with the way Sony and Microsoft are.
What? You doubt what?
I doubt it with the way Sony and Microsoft are, because Sony and Microsoft have already taken it way past that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
See, like Sony was really good in PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era. Like I heard very little bad stuff about them, and they did.
What I wonder is that just because like we weren't paying attention as much, or the internet wasn't as prevalent as much, or is it like because there wasn't nearly as much bad stuff? Because it's easy to say like, oh yeah, back then things were better and whatnot, and I'm like, was it really though that much better though? Because,
I'm pretty sure it was a lot better, and what happened is that after two consoles of being basically the best, because they were owning everything in my opinion during those two console generations, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. Like I was like, why would I buy anything else kind of thing, because this is awesome. And I feel like it went to their heads and they were like, oh, we're awesome now, we can't do anything wrong. And it's like, now that we can't do anything wrong, let us do all this bad shit and make more money. And then they started doing all kinds of bad shit and making a lot more money, being a lot more profitable company, but doing some really douchebag things.
They basically got the Intel problem, really.
Is that what happened to Intel too? Yeah. I'm not sure.
Intel's top dog of the market. They did a lot of lazy things, they did a lot of garbage things, and AMD caught up with Ryzen. Sorry.
I have a belief that...
Losing my voice a bit there, sorry.
I have this belief. I don't think it's entirely true, because obviously there's like big companies who are... There's still some big companies that are pretty consumer-friendly and whatnot out there, but I really believe for the most part, the more shitty situation a company is in, the more consumer-friendly. And for me, the perfect example of this is this Microsoft right now, is because like when the Xbox One was revealed, oh boy, do I even need to talk about that?
No, by all means, do so. Give us your story on it.
Oh, I don't remember all of it because I remember only like pretty much all of it was just ridiculous fucking shit. Like you wouldn't be able to use games for it, always online. Just,
the fact that it could spy on you.
Yeah. There's a lot of other bullshit that I don't even have time to get into right now.
And the fact that it was spying on you, and then you had the whole Snowden thing happen alongside all that.
But look at where we are now. Now, like there's like so many games for Xbox One that are backwards compatible, and there's like 90% of games that are on Xbox One you can get easily on the PC or whatnot. That's like now. I'm not saying like Xbox One is great. I don't own one and whatnot. But like what I'm trying to say is, that's a lot more consumer friendly than they were when they first unveiled the Xbox One. And I don't know. Do you think it's a bit of a coincidence that around that era they were doing really well, and now in this era they're doing not so well? I'm not saying I'm not saying anything. Well, actually, I am saying something, but I'm just saying. Quite the coincidence.
What I would say is that they swapped to a more consumer-friendly model because everybody was calling them out for being anti-consumer, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two is they had already pretty much set everything in stone with that whole spying on you thing. Because my whole thoughts behind the situation was, if they can just patch that out, with just a simple patch, they can just patch it right back in with a simple patch. So they would just wait till they would patch it out, be like, oh, it's not there anymore. Wait till, tons of people buy it, and then patch it right back in. Oh, it's back. And they can't do anything about it because they're done paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is...
Yeah, thankfully the Kinect was then killed shortly afterwards.
The thing is, I think companies... The war of, like, capitalism, in a way... This is going to sound weird, but trust me, I have a point here, is that it's an entire war or entire system of where companies will constantly be, okay, how far can we go, fuck people over, and not have them complain? And eventually there's a point where people will go too far, and consumers will get so angry that they're just like, no, and like they will just not put up with it. We've seen it several times. We've seen it with Battlefront 2, we've seen it with the Xbox One, we've seen it with several other things, we're going to see it several more times, I bet, as the years go on.
Yeah, I mean, companies definitely push their boundaries, at least corrupt companies, try to push their boundaries to the point where they can get the most money out of you without, being too much. And see, the thing is each generation, each bit they push towards you, more and more stuff gets accepted by the consumer. Yeah. And like, then they push a little bit harder and 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 a little bit harder. And now, like, the stuff that is, like, normal to a lot of consumers is, like, stuff that we would, like, 5-10 years ago, we would have been like, hell no.
Mm-hmm. And I really do believe that, in a way, that if a consumer base pushes back hard enough with enough force behind it, we could get, like, anything done. I mean, look at Fortnite. Like, for a while, like, PlayStation, Sony was completely hell-bent on not allowing it whatsoever at all. And now enough people threw a hissy fit over it that, like, I'm not trying to say hissy fit as a bad thing. I mean it, like, as a good thing. Enough people got angry over it that eventually they had to say, okay, we'll do it. You know what I mean?
I think it was less, I think it was less, the hissy fit we threw about it, and more of the wallet hurting that Sony experienced while we were throwing that hissy fit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they could care less about the hissy. Now, when the hissy fit affects their bottom dollar, that's when they start to care.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to hurt it by a significant enough that they know that's the cause.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like,
it's especially when you consider the PlayStation is really their only successful section right now.
Yeah, and it's been their only success for a very long time. Like, since what? PlayStation 2, pretty much every other division of Sony has been, like, very much downtrodden and dead kind of thing.
I feel their animation division might be doing alright. But other than that, I'm not sure. Like, are you guys, like, telling me the Slender Man wasn't a great success from Sony?
I don't know.
And now they've even moved their PlayStation division to California now.
Yeah, that is a thing that's happening.
Well, that's a recipe for even more trouble there.
So they're censoring a lot more games, and they're really giving the middle finger to all the Japanese developers. Because now apparently they have to do all their communications in American time in English. When they're in Japan speaking Japanese.
That's one thing that does suck about me is I'm kind of part of the problem in a way. Like, I own a PlayStation 4 and I occasionally play on it and whatnot. And I'm like, I don't know, to be fair, I bought it like years ago when I was a different consumer and whatnot, and now I'm a consumer, but like, I don't know. I'm part of the problem, so I don't know.
Well, just because you're on a PlayStation doesn't mean you're part of the problem. It does mean you're supporting them.
Well, yeah,
but
here's the thing. Is like I don't like I like to think like I'm at least somewhat of a decent consumer because I don't pay for the online bullshit. Well,
yeah.
If I want to play any games multiplayer, I'll get them on the PC. Overall, I'm just like a reasonably smart consumer for the most part. Not too smart because I do own a console. if I was really smart, I'd only have a PC. But hey, that's life.
You can own a Nintendo Switch, Papa G. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm making a joke just because it's like I'm like I don't know. I just like I'm trying to be like do a joke like I love doing self-deprecating humor and stuff, and I love like the PC Master Race joke. So it just was just something I do, you know.
So knows you're trying too hard against me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean that's why I don't try to be funny anymore. I mean, I have my moments, but I'm just really not that good at being funny.
The thing is,
I'm
funniest when I'm not trying to be funny and when I'm trying to be serious.
But anyway, speaking of Sony and whatnot, did you guys hear about how they're not coming to E3 this year?
I haven't heard anything about E3 this year, so no.
Well, Sony's not going there, apparently.
Yeah.
I guess either they figured out it's too expensive and, hey, here's Nintendo basically just making videos at their own studio, reaching tons of people, and barely paying any money for it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why the hell don't we do that? We reach way more people and it's a lot cheaper.
I wonder if it's because they don't have much to show this year, or if they're gearing up for PlayStation 5, or it's just that 3 is dying and the industry is slowly giving up on it. Should we just kill off E3, just kill it and like never bring it back?
I would say it's gonna die one way or another.
I know, but I'm asking is does E3 still serve a point? Like it served much more of a point during like the days where the internet wasn't as prevalent and you know, like there was like it was the magazine days, so it made sense there would be all, you know, everything big at once and whatnot. But like now, does it really?
I think they have their place. Like I think that E3 is severely overpriced and whatnot, but like I feel like they have their place. And honestly, like I feel like companies like big companies like like AAA developers and first party developers and whatnot, like they really don't need the E3 and whatnot. They could do better since they have all this power and outreach power. They can easily do it through YouTube and other stuff like that very easily. Where like indies that are undiscovered, like myself and many others, or barely known indies, like I feel like they would benefit by a lot from being at E3 kind of thing. But it's like severely overpriced to where basically indies can't go kind of thing.
Yeah, I was actually, as you were talking, I just thought that, yeah, like, I think indie games probably do benefit a lot. Like, I'm pretty certain, like, a lot of people first heard of Cuphead from E3.
Yeah.
So, like,
It's a great way to get exposure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it does still have its place to a degree.
But when you already have, like, all the exposure in the world because everybody knows Nintendo, Sony, EA, everybody already knows these companies. So they don't really need exposure. They just need to put stuff out there so people can see it. So, like, stuff like YouTube, press releases, all this other stuff would just, rumors, all this stuff would be just easy for them to take advantage of without them spending money on E3 or anything.
And the problem with E3, at least on the big corporation side of things, holy shit, I'm somewhat, well, I'm not defending big corporations and saying why it's bad for them, is with E3, at least for the most part over the years, it comes with the expectation that when you come, you normally present something either big or maybe not necessarily mind-blowing, but something big and something as there's a showing. And, like, I'm sure there's been several years where there's been several companies where people have been like, why do you even show up? You've had, like, next to nothing to show.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah,
sort of
I don't see why they even go at that point.
And like, yeah, it's probably and Sony's probably thinking, we don't really have this much. What's the point in doing it? Especially after last year, where I think all they did was just show more information about games that are already confirmed and whatnot.
Well, what else could they do?
It's like, yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's the problem. Like, no matter what, where I'm just like, I don't really care about like a live stream or a game show unless stuff is actually going to be talked about. And I think that's the same with the majority of consumers. And, like, I don't know, like, it has to be a better system or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, PAX is already out there, and you can, as indie, you can somewhat afford to go to PAX kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe PAX will be the way, or I don't know. Maybe
3 became more like PAX than it would be better, in my opinion.
Either that, or maybe we'll have smaller conventions start where indies can show off their games more.
Yeah,
well, that's what PAX is, basically.
Yeah.
PAX is still big, but it's like way smaller than E3.
One thing that Nintendo does is that they have a special showcase called Ninjas, where they just show off indie games or whatnot that are coming to their system and whatnot. So, I know we already have PAX, but like maybe like in the future there could be like more like an exclusive indie game show that really shows off some more of the.
Yeah. They have like at several of these different conventions. I don't know which ones. I'm pretty sure that PAX does this. E3 might do this too. I don't know, but like they often have like an indie showcase kind of thing where they just show off indie games at this one giant booth kind of thing.
Yeah.
As well as those indies having generally their own booth in there that's a lot smaller, like they have these little bitty one, like 8x8, booths kind of thing where like, the whole indie mega booth kind of thing has like, like the size that Sony normally has, but they, have like all different kinds of indie games there.
And, well, I will say this though, also, E3 has a much better place in the industry than the Game Awards does.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Which is funny because it's like, I don't think the basic idea, like, I don't know, like, I don't take the Game Awards seriously at all, but it's like, I don't know, I think the idea behind it, at least, I don't know, kind of cute. It's just sort of a fun little thing. I like the idea of as it's a fun little thing that people get together and do just for the heck of it, but it's put on this high pedestal for some reason. And two,
Yeah.
pretty much, and the even more bigger problem is like it was a little better last year, but especially this year, it's just a freaking popularity contest.
Well, what do you think an award show is?
Oh yeah, but I gave last year, at least I gave some credit for last year where they included some more, at least a little bit more less popular titles and stuff. There's still majority popular stuff, but there was a few lesser known stuff. Like Divinity Original Sin 2 was nominated. Not.
I've never liked any of those kind of award shows. Like,
And it's just stupid bullshit mostly.
they seem mostly rigged.
I tried watching it last year just for the heck of it, just because I figured, you know what, why not? Let me try it. And I got so bored that I turned it off. And it's funny, as soon as I turned it off, apparently that's when some game reveals happened. So I turned it off right when some interesting stuff happened.
You watched 3 hours to miss the 2 minutes of excitement.
No, I didn't watch 3 hours. I just watched like an hour of it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, fuck this, I'm bored.
I mean, so you're turned off by the first impressions of it.
I also makes me want to do like a real Game Awards show. Like maybe I had this idea a while back of maybe like I never brought this to Dalton D, but I had this brief idea of doing like the real Game Awards show where we talk about what we think really deserved like the awards this year or whatnot. But then I realized that in order to do that, like I would have to play like a whole lot more games than I do right now and stuff. And I feel like I don't have like I feel like I haven't played enough games this year to really get a grasp on like how well was this year, or like what is this game or that game or what. So I don't know.
You know what I would honestly like to see?
What?
Is a channel or program or something that like they do everything they can to get exposure for smaller unknown games. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and when I say smaller unknown games, I don't mean like just any crap that comes out on Steam. I mean like quality stuff. It's like, hey, here's something good that you might not know about, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like, here's some treasure we found at the bottom of Steam's ocean of games. That's the thing.
Maybe we couldn't do that at one point or whatnot. Do like a bunch of games that are very well known and talked about.
And it's like that. Damn it! You knew what I'd do when you brought that up, didn't you?
What do you mean?
It's like that. The moment he brings up an idea, my creativity starts going up, and I come up with ideas for it.
The issue is for that to do any real good, you would have to have a good bit of viewer base.
Yeah.
Another idea
And
I
coming up with
had,
ideas for that too. Damn it.
a similar idea I had was like was thinking like I'm continuing from the other idea I had where it was like the real Game Awards. I was thinking of doing something where it's like we do an episode, we really say the Game Awards are shit. Here's the things that actually deserve the awards, and we go through each category and like give it to something that actually deserved it or whatnot. But again, I feel like that would require me to play a lot more games than like I guess they wouldn't be impossible, but like
You don't have to play them. Just watch Let's Plays.
Yeah, at least be aware. Well, actually, even watching Let's Plays really doesn't work because the fact is very few games actually make it onto YouTube for Let's Plays.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of games out there that basically don't exist on YouTube or exist in such small quantity on YouTube. It basically doesn't exist on YouTube. Like Chromatia, for example.
Yeah.
There's only a few YouTube videos up on there. And I think there's about 30 YouTube videos on there, roughly, and about 25 of those are Dolphin V's videos.
Yeah, 25.
I find it funny. Like, here's something I find funny. Apparently in one of like I don't know what category it was, but one of the Game Awards categories, it shows how more bullshit it is. I think it was best student game. Like one of the judges they have for deciding what the best student game is Todd Howard. And I don't know. To me, I just find that funny. That like Todd Howard is one of the judges. You know, Todd, everything just works. Howard.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No further point there. Just something I found funny.
Yeah.
I think the judges doesn't really matter because the fact is the results are probably already chosen before the judges even get in there.
Probably.
So this is something to talk about with Todd Howard. I was like, okay, I think it relates to Bethesda. They're not changing their game engine going forward to newer games.
Yes,
I was like,
that is true.
how do you think that's going to affect them?
I see nothing but a burning hell of a mess going forward.
It's going to be a lot of the same going forward, kind of thing. They're not going to innovate. They're not going to do anything. It's just going to be copy and paste sequels. Let's slightly reskin this game. Let's slightly do this. We'll just put out some of the same old kind of thing.
No, it's not going to be that. What it's going to be is they're going to get a game and they're going to make it take away all the major things that made it good or better, and like only tweak and make better like some really small thing. And then with Fallout 4, they took away all the stuff that really made it good, and they tweaked a few minor things, but they got rid of all the like major stuff that actually made it good. So that's what I think.
What about Fallout 76?
Well, Fallout
then
76
they really got rid of everything.
Fallout 76, that's a whole different other issue altogether because
They got rid of the whole game.
no, like Fallout 76, flat out, like I can understand why someone likes Fallout 4 stuff. It's not, like I even enjoy parts of Fallout 4. I don't think it's a good game, but it's like, I don't think it's quite as bad as some people say it is. It's still pretty bad, but it's like with Fallout 76, it's like I don't say this option, but it should not have been released at all because like I don't know if you heard of this, but like apparently some modders have come out and said that if they wanted to, they could just easily throw in their mods into Fallout 76, no problem. Like they could easily add in like game-breaking fucking mods if they wanted to, because it's so similar to Fallout 4's architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also here's another great thing about Fallout 76 is apparently you could get your IP address tracked if someone hacked into it. You get your IP address like traced very easily.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me with all the lack of attention they've done to the online for it. All of the bugs and glitches in the online system.
Then there was like a bug in one of the patches where it could delete itself. The game could delete itself from your system.
I don't know. Bethesda has always made really buggy and really bad games, but this is really a new low for them.
Isn't the idea of Bethesda, okay, let's make a game that's sort of kind of finished, it sort of kind of works, and we'll just let the modding community finish it for us.
Yeah.
I mean, they figured, wow, it worked with Skyrim, so let's do it with something else.
Well, the thing is, like, online games aren't that simple and stuff, and they themselves have said mods aren't coming for another whole year. And, I don't know. Maybe who knows? Maybe Fallout 6 will go the No Man's Sky route, where it has a massive update and it fixes almost everything. But I don't know.
It would be nice if that happened, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it too. Well, at least there's fan-made mods like Fallout New California.
Yeah. Well, I just personally won't support those games because I won't support that kind of business practice because I feel like if you pay them for those games, they're just going to keep on doing that because you're not giving them any reason to not do that. You're giving them more reason to do it.
Yeah.
I still want it because it looks like a bad game.
You want it because it looks like a bad game?
No, I said I don't want it because it looks like a bad game.
Okay, good.
That's like
I mean, I'd probably play it just for a dumpster fire show and see how bad it is.
I don't know, maybe
if you could get your money back.
I don't know, maybe if it ever goes on sale for dirt cheap, then maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't know, like, I would love, I would love for me and Dolphin B to team up, maybe play that game together and whatnot, and... You know,
It could be like the multiplayer Drake of the 99 Dragons, and wow, I'm really going back far there.
Yeah, and one of you headshots the other because one got disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the only reason I got a Destiny 2 was because it's free. So if I could get Fallout 76 for free, I would take it. But
the issue with your whole plan with that, playing, Fallout 76 together, is that if you don't act soon, the servers are probably going to be down forever for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Also, the whole thing is I don't want my IP address traced, so I think I want to wait until that thing's fucking fixed.
Well, then you'll probably be waiting forever.
Yeah. And you'll want to wait till the game doesn't have updates that are bigger than the actual game.
No, I want to wait till the game is actually good, or at least until they make it so it's not. I don't know. It really is kind of embarrassing of like how like many oversights there are in terms of like safety and servers.
See, when you're a corrupt company, you don't care about what happens to the people who are your customers. You only care about your bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like companies are in a race to do as many stupid things as possible.
I wouldn't put it that way. I would put it to where they want to cheap out on the game as much as possible, so they have the smallest amount that they have to pay to make a game, at the same time as making the most money possible. So, the greatest pay to, expenses ratio they can, so that they can give, the most money to their investors, their real customers, so that they can, make them happy, and just continuing elevating it every, time they do a game, basically, in, progressively getting worse and worse business practices due to that.
Even to the point it doesn't even make sense for them to make decisions they do.
Bethesda has to understand that
I
there's
mean,
a
it's
point.
like Bethesda, I think it was, they did Fallout 76, and they think, wow, no one could do anything worse than this. Then Blizzard comes along and says, hold my beer.
Fallout 76. Fallout 76 is way worse than Diablo Immortal.
Yeah, same thing happened with Battlefield, though. Wasn't it Battlefield? And then the Middle Earth game, what was that? Came along?
Oh no.
The Warner Brothers game with loot boxes worse than Battlefield?
Oh.
Oh, was that Shadow of War?
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah, they finally got rid of loot boxes in that.
They did a hold my beer situation too.
What do you mean?
Well, everybody was, going nuts over the loot boxes and everything in Battlefield, and then or Battlefront, whichever one it was, Battle something.
It was probably.
And then Warner Brothers came along and said, "Hold my beer," and then they did the Middle Earth
Shadow of War.
Shadow of War.
Yeah, putting loot boxes in the game to allow you to skip a whole bunch of combat.
What I understand.
Not only that, but taking out their main feature and replacing that with, with loot boxes, basically. It's like, hey, we took the one good thing that everybody loved and turned it into something everybody hates. And also, not only that, but it's not even like you can pay and get the good stuff, because like they just wrecked all the good stuff that was about it too. So like, even if you did pay, you weren't going to get the good stuff that you were going to get in the previous version. You were just going to get a really crap version of the faded memories of what was good.
Fair enough. So like, okay, I just had a really bad brain malfunction. What were we just talking about again?
Bad companies saying, hold my beer, I'll do worse.
Right. I'm sorry, I had a brief brain malfunction. I was listening really intently too, and I don't know why I just had small malfunction where I forgot everything we were just
Back on
about.
topic, Papa G, for you forget again.
Right. Companies that are doing bad. I personally think Battlefront 2 was. Well, I don't know. I haven't played either one, so I can't really speak. But what I've heard, I think Battlefront 2 sound like a little bit worse than Shadow of War. But I don't know. Both sounded pretty bad.
Well, with Shadow of War, you could at least win the game without using loot boxes. That's what happens. Near the very end, right before the final battle, all of your fortresses that you take over get attacked at once. And you have to work around the clock to defend all of them, and it's a lot easier if you just buy the microtransactions.
Well, at least my.
And so now they patched that out because people hated it.
Do you think people should feel like they're part of the problem if they buy it now that the microtransactions are out?
I honestly don't know. Like, I personally wouldn't. I know that because the fact is they haven't shown me that by patching that out, that doesn't show me that they're going to change. It doesn't show me that they're not going to do that in the future. It just shows me, hey, we quelled at least some of the stuff you were mad about, and will you shut up now, kind of thing. Like I don't. They never apologize, and even if they would apologize, I would doubt it would be a legit one. And like nothing about that like tells me that, hey, we won't do this in the future. So like I wouldn't support them personally because the fact is I feel like they would just use that money to go do it again in a new way.
The way I view it is at this point I'm sort of at the point where like I don't know, I'll give what you deserve in a way, where it's like if like EA were to make a game tomorrow that was perfect in every way and wasn't like Battlefront 2 at all, it was just all around great with a 10 out of 10, story, gameplay, everything great, I would buy it and stuff, and I wouldn't feel bad about it. But it's like the general way I look at things is I pick and choose, where it's like I don't. This is just me personally. I'm not saying everyone should do it this way. This is just like the way I'm at because. I'll explain in a minute, where it's like, I'll look at a game, I'll see, am I interested in this, is it good, does it have this or that, and stuff. Depending on that, I'll decide whether or not I'll buy the game. I don't really hold grudges against the company. The way I look at it as, like, your products are different from your other products. Or your art is different art, because, like, games can be used as art and product. And and then I'm sort of like that because at the point, there's, like, so many, like, I don't think there's like a single like developer out there, or at least save for like a couple that are like indie or whatnot. But then I don't think there's a single AAA or AA developer out there that hasn't done at least one or two things that are a little bit shady. So at the point where I'm like, I'll judge on your game and stuff, and that's all I'm giving. I don't owe you any loyalty, and I don't owe you. But the reverse is I don't owe you any animosity. Now,
well, for me, like EA has done so many bad things. Like they would have to not do that once; they would have to do that 2 or 3 times. Give games in a row that they did not, screw up with bull crap for me to even dream about supporting their company.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's fine. The reason why I operate the way I do is because I figure if I support the company at the times when they do good things, maybe that'll encourage them to do those good things more and not the bad stuff less. Again,
Yeah,
I'm not saying...
but when's the last time they did a good thing?
What do you say?
When's the last time they did a good thing?
That's a good question.
Well, yes, for me it would depend. Okay, why are they doing that good thing? Are they doing a good thing because some top people in the company recently changed? I mean, that does happen. People in companies, they do change over time. There's a direction the company can change.
Yeah. Last good time I know of EA was like back in the NES era.
Really?
Yeah.
Not even Mass Effect or Mass Effect 2? That doesn't count?
I mean, like, people like those games, but they had lots of bad business practices even then.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
They were still corrupt.
Anyway,
Not saying a corrupt company can't make good games, but a corrupt company is a corrupt company. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
I'm not saying
I just won't support that kind of thing.
Yeah, I understand. I want to make it clear, I'm not saying my way is the objective way to do it or the way everyone should do it. I'm just saying this is how I do it and this is why I do it. And like I don't blame anyone for going about the way that you do it, Sharky, or you do it, V. I just wanted to get like, this is how I do it out, just so
Yeah.
like just so if anyone ever just so like if I just to make it clear, just so like no one gets on my back if like I ever like do buy an EA game that happens to be good and it's I don't know.
Yeah, do
Point
remember
of-
this is the internet, Papa G.
Yeah,
You're gonna get that no matter what you say.
you're right. Point is fuck EA, and yeah, I guess that's it. Fuck EA, and also
Fuck Konami.
yeah, sure.
Oh
fuck
yes,
Konami,
absolutely, yeah.
Fuck Nintendo, fuck Sony, fuck Microsoft, fuck CD Projekt Red, fuck everyone.
Why'd you fuck CD Projekt Red for?
Well, not just CD Projekt Red. I said fuck everyone. The entire game industry should go fuck itself.
Well, no, I could agree with Konami. I mean, if they could just bring the Castlevania games to the PC, I'd probably forgive them a bit. But they can't even do that. They make it PS4 exclusive.
I'm just mostly I don't really mean fuck the entire gaming industry. I don't know. I'm just saying shit that pops out of my mouth. Sometimes stupid shit pops out of my mouth, and I don't really think it through.
Okay, to get you back in something else then, what do you think of the 3-episode rule in anime?
Oh yeah,
I mean, that was something you wanted to discuss, right? Briefly.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to debate with Sharky on because we discussed in our last episode. And he sort of commented on it, saying like he thinks 3 episodes are good. So let's have a debate, Sharky. I think personally, if a show is awful in the very first episode, you are more than justified in dropping it. What do you think?
Well, I would say you can't judge a whole show by the first episode.
I would agree.
Let's take a recent example of that with what is it? Goblin Slayer. Like Goblin Slayer's first episode was extremely across the board, like hated by everybody. And then but they were just setting things up. They were setting things up because in the way that things had to be set up was they need to, goblins to really be hated to make the anime make any sense at all. Because otherwise, if the goblins were not really hated from the beginning, then everybody was just going to be like, this guy's just a psychopath going around killing goblins. It wouldn't have made any sense. And after that, it hasn't been like that. So if you go everything off the first episode, then you just Goblin Slayer.
Well, here's my counter argument to that. First off, I would argue there were some people who did like the first episode of Goblin Slayer even during the whole rampant controversy. Another thing is some of the controversy was because apparently Crunchyroll mislabeled it PG for some reason. They really did that.
Crunchyroll, you are the gift that keeps on giving, truly.
Oh yeah, Crunchyroll literally did that. They labeled Goblin Slayer PG instead of R or for adults only for some fucking reason. Love to know what monkey in the typewriter made that mistake.
Yeah, they had to correct that afterwards.
Yeah. So some of the controversy was caused from that, from people who just thought they were going to get a nice PG anime and ended up getting fucking that.
Yeah.
And the thing is though, I would argue, obviously not saying for everyone, but I would think that most of the people who kept on watching Goblin Slayer didn't completely hate or triggered by the first episode because.
Well, I know there's several YouTubers that have put their word out there where they completely slammed Goblin Slayer for the first episode, and they completely slammed it. And now that they're several episodes in, they're Goblin Slayer is actually a really good series, but the first episode is still fucking shit. and they still fucking messed it up, and I still hate the first episode. So like, you know.
Well, yeah, that's true, but like, what I'm saying is that the majority, because like I don't know, like I guess I don't have any scientific proof of this, but it's like a lot of people I talk to, at least, like I don't know, this is anecdote, and this is not like me trying to scientifically prove you wrong. That's a record. I'm just saying based on my experience, like based on a lot of people I talk to, like Dolphin V or Early Salady or even one of my friends in real life, they had somewhat of an interest. My friend in real life had somewhat of interest going into it and whatnot, or like they weren't like or they weren't pissed off by the first episode or like triggered by it or whatnot. Or at least I'm assuming Dolphin D wasn't.
Yeah. For me, I was, you know, debating on watching it, you know, at first, and then I didn't watch it, and the whole controversy came about, and I was like, I wonder if this controversy is real or if it's actually bullshit. So I went to watch it.
What did you think?
I'd almost wonder if the first episode or even first chapter was done that way on purpose to try and get controversy around it.
Well, I think it was definitely done somewhat on purpose to be a subversion. Subversion, Last Jedi, it's all connects. Back on topic, like it's supposed to be like subvert your expectations a bit in this case where at first it seems bright and colorful and then it's like hits home that this is a dark and brooding show.
So my thoughts on the first episode is that the story itself was good and it was a good setup kind of thing. They did leave out a part from the manga that I've learned. I haven't read the manga, but they left out a part from the manga where they actually character build the 4 characters that got wrecked before they got wrecked. And I feel like that was a very bad thing to leave out, you know.
Didn't do that in the anime?
No.
Really?
The anime, it's just, these are 4 random adventures, you don't know their names, don't bother, they're not going to live very long.
Yeah, and then they die. Except for one.
Mm-hmm.
And
But in fact, none of the characters are actually named anyway, they just go by their classes, don't they?
yeah, in that one, in that party, I think.
Yeah.
But I think they actually did have names in the manga.
Mm-hmm.
But they left out that part, and I think that was a very bad part to leave out. You know, I know, like, timing-wise, you know, that you would have to leave out something in place of that, and I don't know what you would leave out, but, like, I feel like that was a very bad thing to leave out. And, like, you know, like the whole controversial thing, like, I don't think it was all that bad, if bad at all. But I do think that, you know, the way one YouTuber I watched pointed out, they definitely did, frame their camera shots to be more like fan service than, you know, victimization. And, you know, and that did kind of come across kind of that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would almost say they probably did that as an artistic choice to make it seem, hey, we're trying to make this fan servicey while a girl is getting raped. This makes it a bit more disturbing. I mean, I'm guessing that might have been what they were going for, but it wasn't executed all that well.
Yeah.
I also did something like that and started out online. Out of curiosity, this isn't a point against you or a point for you. I'm just curious. Did the YouTuber talk about having to be Mother's Basement?
Maybe. I can't remember.
I was asking this because I was out of curiosity.
Okay, Papa G, you really need to stop your obsession with this guy.
I watch so many anime channels.
Long story short, I used to be a big fan of a YouTuber called Mother's Basement because he did something. I liked him for he did something I thought was unique. He did a bunch of analysis of anime openings, which I thought was something unique. But like as time went on, he became more of a shill, like literally a shill. Like he would shill for Crunchyroll really hard or whatnot. At first, it wasn't too bad because it's the same thing that every anime channel was doing, but there was one episode that really started alarm bells ringing off in my head really deeply was when he did a video on Naruto, and like you literally stopped the video 8 different times, and I counted to shill for Naruto Online, and I was
Mm-hmm.
The point that made me unsubscribe was when he did a really bad, unfunny Rick and Morty video, like where he did it, like an impression of the characters for the whole thing, and it was really unfunny. It was bad. And I've just had an obsession about him ever since, because ever since I've unsubscribed from him, he seemingly has gotten worse and worse, apparently.
Yeah, I don't think that I wouldn't unsubscribe for those reasons personally.
Well, like it was
But like I
a
could see not liking that, especially the whole 8 ads in a video.
well, it wasn't just
Well, since it was
those.
Naruto, I wouldn't have watched it to begin with because I don't like Naruto. But
Well, like it wasn't just that. It was a whole mixture of things. First off, his quality of his content was going down pretty rapidly as I was. And another thing was, one thing that was annoying, he would always joke about how he was a shill. Like he'd say, "Hey, I'm the shill master supreme," or "Hey, I'm a corporate dick sucker," and he would always joke about that. But then he would immediately go back to like shilling and whatnot. So it's kind of
but
scary how you
you
go.
know the saying. You know the saying.
But
You say that you're the thing first, and then you take away the power from the other people who say it
well,
after.
didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And but the thing is, I could stomach it. At first I could stomach it easily because I thought his videos were still good. But then his video quality was starting to go down and down, and it didn't, and so his video quality was going down, and that's added with the fact that he was constantly shilling, combined together to make me really annoyed. And then like the final culmination, like the final straw, was a Rick and Morty video he did, where he was analyzing the opening of Rick and Morty. But everybody was like, "Oh, that sounds cool. I like Rick and Morty." But literally the whole video, did it in a really unfunny Rick and Morty impression. And he even said in the video, "Hey, it was really unfunny" or whatnot. So he acknowledges the joke wasn't that funny, but he did it for the entire fucking video anyway. And during the video, he did some sort of advertisement for something, and in a Rick voice, he's like, "Hey Morty, we're in some shitty video where this guy's chilling hardcore." And this after that, I'm just like, I'm done, dude. That was like the final straw.
With me personally, I wouldn't like that stuff, but like I wouldn't necessarily unsubscribe for that. I mean, like if it became to a point where it would just war on me, yeah. But where I usually unsubscribe is where they're specifically doing something bad. Like they're putting paid advertisement in there and not telling anybody about it. Kind of hiding it in there.
I have no problem with paid advertisements and whatnot at all.
I'm talking about when they hide them in there, and they're not paid advertisement. It's just they're doing a paid advertisement and tricking you into fooling you into not being a paid advertisement or an advertisement at all.
Well, the thing was, he went like, I have no problem with people taking ads or doing like promotion for stuff. The problem is when he did it, when he started taking ads, he took it full on and whatnot. Like he stroked Crunchyroll's dick so much. Like he did a whole video about piracy and whatnot, where he completely shamed a bunch of piracy sites and acted like Crunchyroll was like this perfect bastion of like greatness or whatnot. And like he would shit on other streaming services, but he remember he shit on other streaming services at Netflix and Amazon for doing questionable things, but he never shit on Crunchyroll and whatnot, because I'm pretty certain that's where he got most of his ads from. And like that's like when the point where I'm like that's the point where like advertisements start annoying me, is when you start.
Yeah, that's fake crap.
Other stuff.
Yeah, definitely would not like that.
No. I mean, come on, if you're gonna advertise, at least try to be funny about it, or somewhat subtle.
And like he was kind of funny and kind of subtle about it at first.
I mean,
like,
that's kind of like Linus Tech Tips does. Even when it's an awkward segue, they still try to have the advertisement in there somewhere.
It was really funny and really kind of alright at first, but it got slowly but surely it built up and up and up until it was like I didn't even recognize him anymore. So like that was sad.
Linus also fully makes his advertisements clear that they're advertisements.
That is something he has done. Yes, for the most, I made it clear like he was. But anyway, back to the original topic. What were we talking about originally? Oh yeah, we were talking about Goblin Slayer and whatnot in the 3 episode poll. What I'm wondering is, Sharky, is for you, have you ever seen, maybe it doesn't have to be anime, it could be anything, where you've read or watched some first episode of something, you absolutely hated it, but like you went on anyway?
Yeah.
Like what?
You would ask that. I'm trying to think, but nothing. I'd have to think about it for a while to figure it out. But there has been some things. I don't know what they are, but there has been several things, and several of them have been anime.
Fair enough.
That.
Dolphin, I'm curious, Dolphin, you've been pretty quiet, so what are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts on the first episode rule?
Yeah.
I believe this, in the majority of cases, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So,
yeah.
In most shows, if how you're opening up a show, any show, is absolutely terrible, I have to ask why. This is the first exposure to a show. This is basically the big marketing commercial for the show. Why is it terrible?
Yeah, I think I have a good example for that now. Chromasia. Chromasia.
The first trailer wasn't. Well, it wasn't that bad.
The first trailer wasn't bad. Good, and the.
Well, hey, come on, look. I know that I was the biggest critic of it, but I don't think it was that bad.
What's so bad about the first Chromasia trailer?
It was
too long. It showed a spoiler scene right at the beginning.
It was like there was what was it, about a minute and a half, and like the first 45 seconds was nothing but dialogue, just dialogue scrolling across the screen on different images, and like the last 30 seconds or so were like gameplay kind of things, and it was just it was a train wreck. But not only that, but like the first part of Chromasia, how it just jumps into the game and it doesn't really give you much story at the beginning, it definitely gives you story. It's just, really fast and just that kind of thing. And it doesn't really show that much, to the world kind of thing. And then you have to play it and get farther into the world before you realize, holy crap, there's a lot of story here.
The way I look at it is, and I think I think the real debate will come with Dolphin V and stuff, because he feels more passionate about this than me, but it's I think there's definitely exceptions and whatnot, and there's definitely shows that start out bad but get good later and whatnot. It's just my thought process is, if it's if the first episode is unredeemably awful or whatnot, or really bad, unless I have someone who I trust that tells me no, it gets better, I won't do it, because I'm at that point I'm what the heck? It's awful. I don't like watching awful stuff.
Yeah. I mean, in most cases, the one episode rule works, kind of thing. But it's one of those things where if you really like it in the first episode, you're probably going to like it in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't like it, in the first episode, you still may like it, in the end.
Yeah, exactly. But and the thing is, it's not unanimous. There's definitely shows that have started off good and I think ended bad or whatnot.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of those, like Darling and the Franks.
Or Big O. That was that was a what the hell ending. What happened?
I haven't seen Darling for Next, but I remember there was a lot of talk about it before it came out, and then when it finally did came out, I remember everyone who I either talked to on or offline was just constantly shitting on it.
Basically, what it was is they had built up a good story through the first several episodes, right?
Yeah.
And then in the last few episodes, just shit went nuts. It was a just completely different anime, basically. It was the first half of the anime was I don't know, fairy tale, and then the second half was Gundam.
Mm-hmm.
I heard people shitting on it long before the last few episodes.
Well, that's the one part that really just Yeah. That's the part that everybody pretty much complains about.
Yeah.
Is that not even the same anime in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In one show,
And it doesn't make any sense to why it isn't.
and like there's one
Well.
show I haven't seen it personally, but I've heard from a lot of people. There's a show called Zokyo no Terror, or Terror in Residence, stuff done by the director of Cowboy Bebop. Like apparently, I haven't seen myself, so I can't confirm this, but according to a lot of people I've talked to, it starts out like a really interesting mystery, and it's really unique and whatnot. But like by the end, it just like sort of is like kind of a clusterfuck and plot holes, and it's like kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it, so I can't really say anything.
I haven't seen it either and stuff. I've just this is what I've been told is what I'm saying.
Like with some animes like that, it might be because the writer changed at some point.
Yeah.
Which
I
that's
think
what happened to Big O. One of the reasons that anime ended poorly.
Oh, is that what happened to it?
Yeah, the second season of Big O, the writer changed. I think it was Chiaki J. Konaka, that guy.
Mm.
Guy who's known for writing really mind-fuck-like animes.
What I think. Oh, sorry, I'll let you talk. Hello.
Who are you talking to?
I think Dolphin be cut out temporarily.
No, I'm here.
Okay. What were you saying?
Well, I'd finish my point.
Okay.
I was saying sometimes with animes like that, the reason they change massively is because the writer changes midway.
Yeah. I think also like there's definitely no one-way rule to like watch things, obviously, but the way I look at it is and stuff is like there's never been I've never, at least not yet, I haven't come across like a first episode that I thought was so awful that I stopped then. I just saying figuratively, like if I ever came across that, I probably would drop it right there.
I have.
Fair enough.
I've come across Attack on Titan.
Really?
Yeah, I watched the first episode and I was like, yeah, they're just showing gore for gore's sake, and there's like no point behind any of this. Like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
I haven't really watched that much of Attack on Titan, but I didn't think the first episode was that bad.
Yeah, that is, they were just showing gore for shock value and shock value and shock value. That's all the first episode was. The first episode of that is what everybody makes the first episode of Goblin Slayer out to actually be, when he was actually story building, world building, where there's not really any of that.
Well, could the devil's advocate here? But can you make the argument that there was world building in the first episode, and that was to set the stakes of how fucked up this world is?
Not unless you can say gore, but the world building.
What about you, Dolphin? What do you think? Have you seen Attack on? I've only seen.
I have.
Episodes. Well,
I've read some of the manga as well. I think there is some world building in the first episode, though. Really, I guess the main reason it's became such a big manga so quickly is because it was a premise that was easy to understand. It was very clear.
Do you think
even the promotional image of the anime is pretty clear. There's humans and they're fighting these massive man-eating monsters in a city. Okay, good. What more do you need than that? Okay, good.
I've only ever watched 5 episodes of Attack on Titan. Out of curiosity, what do you think of Attack on? Out of curiosity, what is your overall opinion on Attack on Titan?
Well, I'm trying not to say too much without spoiling some major plots. I mean, the story kind of goes off in some weird direction later on.
So
that you don't really see coming, but when you start to question how some of the backstory... Well, the story goes in a weird direction that you don't see coming, but when you start to question, okay, why is the world the way it is, the twists kind of make sense.
So do you think it's a good show or a bad show?
I'll tell you. If they could have articulated better in the first episode that there's more going on than just there's giants and they're eating people. Okay, I think the show could have been better had they done that. I mean, I can understand why they didn't. I mean, they want to really sell the show in the first episode. on one of
I'd
the
argue
big premises, but okay.
I'm not a big fan of Attack on Titan, but even then, I'd argue there's at least a little role. But like, yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from, Sharky.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm defending Attack on Titan. I don't care about Attack on Titan. What am I doing? I hate being a devil's advocate. You like find yourself in like one of the biggest problems I see one of the biggest problems of being a devil's advocate is you start defending or attacking things that you don't agree with or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. Like, I can't be devil's advocate. Only thing I can do is I can try to see it from their point of view, and I can like address that stuff. But that isn't going to make me devil's advocate kind of thing. Like it's like, yeah, I mean, like EA did all this stuff to make more money, and they were just trying to make more money. They weren't trying to screw everybody over, but they purposely, screwed everybody over to make more money.
Yeah, when I'm devil's advocate, I'm not advocating for those positions. I'm just like bringing up the arguments, like just for the heck of it, because it's like, you know what I mean?
Makes the podcast go on longer.
So, trying to think. How about you debate? Like, do you have any points to bring up for the one episode versus 3 episode rule, Dolphin B? Because I feel like I said most of what I want.
Well, not without bringing up any more specific examples. I mean, I'm not sure what specific example I could really bring up at this point. I mean, most animes I know from pretty much the first 5 minutes whether or not I'm going to like it. And there is a couple anime that have fooled me. I think it was a recent one, I can't remember.
Was it Black Clover?
Yeah, Black Clover.
I think what it ultimately comes down to is a special word that I've advocated for in the past, and that's subjectivity, where it's like people view things differently, and whatnot.
I mean, with Black Clover, I was like, okay, this anime could be good by the first episode, and then by the second episode, I was getting annoyed. By the third one, I was just outright pissed off. And I thought back to the first episode, and I thought, there were signs in that first episode that this was where the anime was going.
Actually, I really do like Black Clover. Like, it's definitely not one of my favorite anime, but I really do like it. And like the first episode is better than like the second and third kind of thing, and it's one of those things where it does go downhill, like what you were talking about, but then it goes back uphill, kind of thing. It's very stereotypical in a lot of ways, but like it's good. It's not great or anything. It's nothing that it's not a must see or anything, but it is legitimately good. It's not legitimately good like all the way through. It definitely has its low points, specifically at the right after the beginning, because and even the beginning to the point too, because they have Asta screaming and yelling like he's fucking insane, and and like all that stuff at the beginning between him and what's his name, the one that lived with him, all that stuff between them when they were first starting out, that stuff was horrible. But like now, like the stuff between them, it's like pretty damn good, and like they're legitimate rivals. Like it's not like like Sasuke and Naruto kind of bullcrap. It's like it's like more like a fairy tale, Gray and fucking Natsu kind of thing, or like what's that? I can't really recall, but like it was really annoying at first, but then like after they kind of grew into it, they both stopped being obnoxious brats and started being legit rivals that were good kind of thing. So, but they were annoying rivals at the beginning. Oh my god, they were so annoying at the beginning.
I think it was,
and that's a good example for an anime that did not start off strong. Well, it started off strongish in the first episode, and then second episode really kind of went down, and third and fourth, kind of went down until a certain point where it just all of a sudden started going back up, kind of thing.
yeah. Well, it was probably the first episode. It kind of set up that there's probably going to be more than just a simple rivalry between these two brothers, and then the second episode's like, nope, JK lol, we totally set you up there.
Yeah.
What I mean, Asta not having any magic, his I guess surrogate brother being kind of acting like I'm better than you douchebag, and his brother getting absolutely everything good. Asta gets nothing, and that's who was the bad guy again of that episode? I can't remember. Anyway, he drops the massive reveal on Asta that kind of breaks him. I mean, there was a pretty good setup for that.
Yeah.
Asta gets incredibly resentful of his surrogate brother and goes off on his own little adventure where he discovers other people like him that can't use magic, and that kind of evolves into something. I mean, I was kind of expecting the story to go in that direction, and then it just turned into Sasuke and Naruto again.
And now it's more like, what would be something that I could compare it to? Now their relationship, and like the whole like anime's a lot like kind of like Bleach was when Bleach was good, mind you.
Yeah,
where it's like the 9 courts of the 12 courts of Soul Society and everything. But this is where like Ichigo was like part of the squads kind of thing instead of the whole Earth and Soul Society thing.
Mm-hmm.
My friend, a friend of mine, has such a interesting relationship with Bleach. Or like the early parts, he really loves the early parts of it, but has since gone on to like really hate the later parts.
Oh yeah. That is pretty much my exact thing too, because I love Bleach so much that that I don't know, like
start to go off its meds a bit. You loved it.
I was about as close to a fanboy as you could be without actually being one. Of Bleach, like I loved it. I cosplayed as Ichigo. One of the and everybody actually thought that was like the best looking Ichigo they had ever seen. And he was also I was Ichigo Bankai, and this was I think this was before English, Bleach had even gotten the Bankai.
Wow.
And I think English Bleach was like around episode 30 or so when I cosplayed as Bankai Ichigo. But like, I was really into it. Like I was super into it. Like I was really into like the first 3 seasons. The first 3 seasons were amazing. Which the first season was where they were on Earth, and at the end they fought Bakuya and Renji, and then they said Rukia went off, and then the next 2 seasons were when they were trying to save Rukia and fighting the Soul Society, and at the end Aizen's like, hey, fuck off, all you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then after that,
you all the time, I'm gonna slick my hair back and be the main villain.
Yeah, and all that was good, and then they went into the 3rd chapter, the 3rd or 4th season, and the 4th season was just the filler from the anime house. Hey, there's energy vampires. They're going to come and suck your energy, but they're no threat unless we just downpower the hell out of everybody.
Yeah.
So we're downpowering the hell out of everybody. Nobody's powers work anymore.
I mean, remember Ichigo, the guy who invaded the Soul Society? Now he can be beaten by a dude with a snake whip. Seriously.
Yeah. And then they did the next season. They did another filler that everybody raged about, and then right when they were about to get to the final boss fight, and in that they said, "Hey, you know what? This we could actually give some kind of payoff to this filler, but we're going to just scrap the filler at the best part, and we're going to start a new filler at the worst part, the beginning, and like drag that all the way through. They take that all the way up to like the final boss, and then they scrap it right before the final boss, and then they start a new one. They take that one all the way to the final boss. Then they scrap that one right before the final boss, and then they start a new one, and then they take that up to like 3 or 4, like a third of the way through, and then they go to actual non-filler stuff. They show like 3 episodes of non-filler stuff, and then they continue back with the filler stuff for another 20 episodes, and then they show like 3 non-filler episodes, and then they show like another 20 episodes of filler, and then eventually they end up showing rest of the non-filler stuff, and like at that point, it was
like
bad.
Naruto filler.
And not only that, but like that whole next section we were so built up from the whole Aizen thing, and the whole letdown from all the filler before it, like, and it didn't really deliver. Like there was not, like, it was just a bunch of bare backgrounds with a lot of nothing, a bunch of guys that you were supposed to care about because they had a number on them, and you don't get any backstory on them or any story on them for the most part until, right before they die. And here's this backstory right, in the last, like 2 minutes before they die. Here's this, 5-minute backstory 2 minutes before they die. And then they die. And it's like, yay.
Yeah.
And like that whole arc is like that. And then they went to do more filler. And then they did more filler.
Ichigo beats Grimjow, they just jump into the filler.
I have to say,
they jumped into the filler many times during that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was one of the parts.
I think Ashido, that was filler, wasn't it?
Probably. I think I can't remember, but probably.
I don't think I've heard as much passionate love for the early parts of Bleach and burning hatred for the later parts since, like, my buddy. I think you and him would be really great friends.
Hey, I'll have to try and bring him onto the podcast sometime.
Maybe I will. I mean, like, he technically lives at college, so it'll be hard to, but maybe I can bring him on at one point. We'll have to see.
But the main reason why it went bad was because of filler. The second reason why it went bad was because they built up all kinds of hype for everything after Aizen, and there was not. I mean, there was good parts in there, definitely good parts to, get really hyped about, especially the Grimjaw fight, but an awesome fight doesn't make an awesome story, you know what I mean? And the story really fell flat in that arc, and that was a very, very long arc. Mm-hmm. Most of the story in that was, hey, go from point A to point B and fight this guy. Like, the most story development they really did in that arc was when they introduced Nell, which I absolutely love now. Mm-hmm. And when they
they should have done more with her.
Yeah, they absolutely should have. And when they it's certain characters, they gave a little bit to Grimjaw, and they gave a bit to Uraraka, or I can't even say his name. The number 4,
Ulquiorra?
Yeah, that's it. I used to be able to say it, but I can't say it anymore. Yeah, they gave a good bit to him. They really didn't give shit to even Aizen himself,
Yeah, why is he a bad guy?
Who knows?
I think there was one part in the manga maybe where they tried to give him backstory, and so he saw his parents get brutally murdered in the Soul Society, so he decided he needed to become God, I think.
I hadn't seen it. I don't think I've seen that.
At least it's something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than just he was a psychopath all along. I mean, come on, give the villain something. Even Darth Vader has something.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say now?
Just a minute, I need to go to the bathroom.
Okay. What was I gonna say? God damn it, I was like thinking about this whole time. But yeah, I think part of the problem, or at least like I don't know. I don't know the author very well. I only know him a bit. But, like, from what I understand, I think the author, like, the biggest thing with him is he really likes drawing like bullshit and whatnot, and like his story was like oftentimes secondary for him. Like maybe like that caught up eventually. Like
Yeah, like he started. Kubo started as an artist, and he was really damn good at it.
Yeah.
The thing that really made his writing take off, in my opinion, was the fact is how developed he did the characters. Like he made elaborate backgrounds, he did great character design, he did all these things like that made the characters really unique. You know, not just make them look unique, but gave them all these unique backgrounds and backstory and all this other stuff. And like at that point, like the story just makes itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and probably what probably happened is like he probably had like a lot of good ideas early on or whatnot, but as like time went on, he like lost like didn't have as many as ideas, and
Yeah. His writing did go downhill. You know, the longer he went.
At the point where he was like, I have to write this because it's making me money or something.
Yeah. His writing did go downhill, and you know, eventually, I think he just had a mental breakdown and basically went insane. And you know, and when he went through that mental breakdown, you know, like everybody in Bleach just started losing their arms.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody lost their arms, and then he started killing off everybody's favorite characters, and you know, he even killed off Bakuya. I can't even say it anymore. Bakuya. I can't even say it. But like he killed off him, and like, oh man, when they killed off him, like, oh man, that really pissed off the fans. Fans were like, oh hell no, and they just raised all kinds of stink. And then he's like, you know, like the next episode, the next issue, he's like, oh, he's not really dead. See, he's right here. He's not dead. You know, he lived through that death blow.
I guess that Orihime brought him back to life, I guess.
Is that?
Well,
I don't know.
I didn't see that part, but you know, she can do phenomenon reversal, so maybe that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, that might have been why Tiny Kubo gave her that power in case, okay, maybe I need to kill off a character for a little bit, then I can bring him back.
Yeah, the whole Orihime thing just really, really pissed me off. Like, all the way, you know, basically through it, because like I was watching the first season, it's like, you know, and then that first episode when she awakens her power and she fucking kills that Hollow, and it's like, oh shit, she's gonna be fucking badass, and this is gonna be sweet and everything. And then she does literally nothing for the rest of the anime.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was like, oh, why'd you take that good character and just trash her?
Eventually.
They did the same thing with Chad too, but they did him, you know, they didn't trash him until like midway through, you know, the Soul Society arc. They trashed him like basically at the end of season 2 or something when Shunsui beat him.
Well, wasn't that guy like an experienced captain? So maybe.
Yeah, but that was the last thing he ever did, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he came back and did something cool after that point. I mean, you could argue that he did something a little bit cool with his El Morte and the Hollow Hucamundo arc, you know, where he killed that very, very base level, very, very weak, you know, Hollow Anakar, you know, like the weakest of the weak thing in that arc, you know, and he brought out his newest, baddest power that was just able to take out the weakest minion of all. It's like, and then that was the truly last thing he really done.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I would argue that the last thing he actually done that was of any relevance was against Shunsui. Like, he definitely shouldn't have beat Shunsui, but he should have had some good stuff after that. They shouldn't just trash this character after that. And they really trashed Ururu, you know, Ururu. Yeah. I cannot say their names anymore. They really trashed him too, you know. They semi brought him back, you know, after the Mayuri
Kurotsuchi fight.
Yeah.
That was a good fight.
Yeah, they eventually brought him back a little bit after that, but he was like so nerfed, it was insane. Like that fight against him was like insane. Like, he just broke his glove and fucking went nuts, and I was like, holy shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like that was insane. Like, I love that. Like, and like I can see him losing his powers over that, but like they shouldn't have brought him back with like
way less
something
power.
worse than what he had after they had pillar scaled up everything else. They should have found a way at least to bring him back as powerful as he was, because everybody else was way more powerful by that point. It's like, it's almost like the equivalent of like Dragon Ball Z, like, like they're fighting and like all of a sudden he goes up to 1,000,000 and then they say, and 1,000,000 is like the highest at that point, and they're like, they'll bring him back later on and he's like 500,000, but at this point, like everybody's like 2,000,000 at this point and he's like 500,000 and he's just nothing. And they really wrecked his character too. They wrecked most of the characters, and that's really what caused the downfall of it, in my opinion. Is just they wrecked the characters that just were the core of the show. Because like what was so good about Bleach is all the characters and all the character building they have, but when they just toss the characters away, just throw them in the garbage or just never show them again or never pay attention to them, it's just ruins it.
Okay, here's something I was being curious about. What they did with Grand Fisher. They had him pretty much defeat Ichigo. Ichigo was going to get strong enough to beat him, and then Ichigo never fights him again.
Yeah.
In fact, he gets killed off by Ichigo's dad, which, okay, well, his wife, so I can kind of see that, but I think Ichigo should have fought him.
Yeah. And then that would have been his first Anacar fight, too. At least I think it would have been. I think that was before Grimjaw and whatnot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And before Yami and whatnot. Yeah. I believe that was before then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And the fact that they just brought his dad back and, it's like, hey, here's your powers back, to kill the one enemy, and that's all he does. They just throw him away.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Did you have to steal that from Ichigo just to, be like, hey, here's this new character, old character with new powers, and, it's actually old powers, and then we're just going to throw him away. It's like, it would have been just much better just to give that to Ichigo and just have him still not have powers.
I mean, especially his thing is at the end of the first Grand Fisher fight, we see him getting upgraded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, give us something. Let Ichigo fight him again when he's stronger.
So I know very little about Bleach. A lot of this sounds like Spanish to me.
Well, a lot of it is Spanish, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Arrancar, was that? Or the Espada, means sword, I think, Spanish.
I think so. I can't remember. But, like, all the Anacar stuff is Spanish.
Yeah, I think it was the author just liked Spanish language for some reason.
So you were actually a good part right. It didn't sound like Spanish.
So, I wonder if you should end off on that note, or...
Yeah, I think we've gotten to a point we could end.
Thank you so much for being on, Sharky.
No problem. I was glad to be here.
Yeah. We'll be happy to have you on again sometime.
Yeah.
I'd be up for that.
Anyway, to the viewers at home, thanks for stopping by. It was a pretty long episode, but a pretty fun one. I'll be sure to see you all soon. I was going to say next week, but I realized we don't do this weekly anymore. But talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, bye.